Henry Frederick back with a post debates, which were very lively today. 2.5 debates. We had one no-show in the first debate of the 3. And with me now is Arthur Byrnes, City Commissioner in Holly Hill.
Correct.
And Arthur, I endorsed you for the primary, and you did quite well.
And this is the first time we've met
Right,
physically.
but I have followed you over the last
on
several
Facebook
years.
and through that, and I was very proud to have your endorsement. And, probably put me over the top because I won by 1%.
Well, I mean, I have followed Holly Hill. You know, I read the meeting minutes and go over things like that and kind of a week like that.
I had an opponent that had no experience in local government, and I was a little concerned. Sometimes you have someone run against you, and you know that if you lose, they're going to do a good job. And in this case, I didn't have that.
So they didn't throw the bathwater out with the...
Not this time.
Okay.
It's always, politics is always a lot of fun.
What is Holly Hill's most difficult issue? We've heard a lot about homelessness, beach driving, economic... I mean, what is Holly Hill's number one?
Our biggest issue is our reputation, because we get a
crime-ridden
lot of negative press because of what happens in the county area that also calls itself Holly Hill. There's a large unincorporated area to the west of Holly Hill, and that's where the shootings happen.
That comes closer to Derbyshire, right?
It goes all the way out to Derbyshire.
Yeah.
And
But Daytona gets that too.
yes, but there's an area of Derbyshire that residents call Daytona, and then there's an area where those residents call themselves Holly Hill. In most cases, anything west of Nova Road is the county. There's a little bit of a sawtooth. There's some properties on the other side of Nova Road that are in Holly Hill, but in most cases, like...
Well, if you squared off your borders,
no.
do you think that would help?
No, not really. It might hurt us more because we would take in that crime.
Well, I know years ago, a decade ago, I remember there was this big brouhaha about Gorman and Daytona coming together around Holly Hill.
Sure.
And that kind of stopped at some point.
And before that, in 1995 or 97, I forget the exact time, Holly Hill had made an effort to annex all the way out to 95. And we had various political factions that fought against us. And I have a funny story that I tell about that, where my mother lived in that area, and in those days you had to go over to the elections office to get the results. And I'm standing there in the elections office, and I'm looking at the district, and I'm like, wow, that district just voted 98 to 2 against moving into Holly Hill. I assume that one of those two was my mother who voted for it. And I looked at the elections guy and I said, well, what do you think the other one was? And he looked at me with a perfect deadpan and said, probably somebody who misread the ballot. And it was just such a laugh at the time when we lost.
I could be wrong, but I believe from the time when I was at the News Journal, back in the 90s and early 2000s, that the late Tippin Davidson actually had a portion of 6th Street incorporated to Daytona because he didn't want to be the Holly Hill News Journal.
Yes.
You aware of that?
He wanted to be able to say that the Daytona Beach News Journal was within the city limits of Daytona.
But it wasn't at the time.
It wasn't at the time, and it wasn't in Holly Hill. It was in an unincorporated
It's kind of
area.
sandwiched in between.
So they brought it up like what we call in the business a flag lot.
Right.
So if you look at the map of Holly Hill, it comes up 6th Street in a very narrow spot and makes a flag.
Well, that's why I mentioned the idea of squaring off your borders. In that case, they weren't squared off.
And there are so many technicalities that they wouldn't let us do that nowadays. That was the stuff that our original founders and people that served should have done. In the 70s and 80s, Holly Hill had a very inward-looking government. They didn't care what the rest of the county did. And so we've had some problems because of that. If you drive down Ridgewood Avenue in Holly Hill, by the address you can tell where you're at because the cross streets are numbered. And if you're in the 100 block, you know that you are between Mason Avenue and 1st Street.
Which is still part of the ugliness of Ridgewood and Daytona.
In the 200s, you're in you're between First Street and Second Street, and so on until you
So you
get to
hit
the board.
Flumage, right?
But correct, actually past Flumage.
Is Flumage part of Ormond, or?
No, you don't get to Ormond until you get past the Publix.
Oh, okay.
That's on Ridgewood. And I was very instrumental in my first terms on trying to keep, and we did, keep Publix within the city limits of Holly Hill when they moved from the old Halifax Plaza. But since no one was there from Holly Hill to explain that system of streets, when they put in the 911 system, they changed a lot of addresses, and they changed all of Nova Road. So now the Nova Road addresses, you can't tell where you're at by just looking at the street number. You have to have it memorized, or you have to have a map.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I regret from what happened before I was ever in Holly Hill.
And I believe you've had, what, 2 different go-arounds as a commissioner?
I was a city commissioner from 1987 to 2005, and I was beat then by our current mayor, who's John Penny.
Right.
And there was no reason for me to run against him. He was doing a good job. It wasn't worth doing all the politics.
Were you the mayor?
I was never the mayor.
Roland Villa was the mayor.
Roland Villa was the
And
mayor,
then,
and Bill Arthur was
And there was
the
another
mayor.
gentleman
And
involved in NASCAR.
Roy Johnson, Tim Ryan. There's been a lot of mayors.
Well, you got Chris Villa
And
coming
Chris-
in.
Chris is gonna, looks like he's gonna be a good commissioner to serve. John Danio from Sorrento's Pizza, he's also,
Is it getting tougher and tougher to find people to challenge one another for these seats?
it's tough to find good people. It's tough to find people that are not political gadflies and that are coming in for whatever personal reasons they have. When you look at the slate of candidates that's running now in the general elections, look how few of them have been on a city board or a regional board or have done anything.
Well, you gotta start somewhere though, right?
Yes, but you don't start by
No, you start
running
on the
for
planning
commissioner
board.
or by running for mayor. You start by serving on a planning board or a zoning board or all of the little, even the beautification.
Sometimes you have people starting off as gladiators on the chamber.
And that's one of the ways it works too. Now, if
I don't agree with that.
well, but there's a lot of different ways that people start that show that they're not just a gadfly. That shows
But do you
that
find
they're
that,
not-
I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you
Sure.
find there are some people that run, like from a chamber, to try to generate business for their own business or for their friends, or, I see a lot of that sort of incestuous kind of thing in municipal government especially.
In my experience, and I'm probably going to insult some people that I know and love,
Well, that,
but I have found that people whose first foray is to run for mayor are usually egotistical.
I mean, like the guy, Gimbert that ran for
Like
chair.
the county, and I've talked to Greg. I told him, Greg, you should be running for a district seat
Right.
because,
Or municipal seat.
and that's the kind of thing. And we've had debates about it. And his thought was he could do more as the chairman. And the interesting thing is, as a commissioner, I can do more for my seat than the mayor can, because if the mayor wants something that's controversial, he can't make a motion. The motion has to come from one of the commissioners. So if he doesn't have support from the commissioners, the mayor cannot do anything. And it's those kind of things that you learn about politics when you run what I call the proper way. Now, a lot of people run in, like Jeb Bush, never had elected office
No, but
anywhere,
the family-
and he became governor, and he was a pretty good governor. But in most cases that I've seen, where the people come in from a gadfly point of view, where they weren't interested enough to start on a board or to run for a commission seat, then it's usually a lot of tumultuousness. And there are people who believe that that's how government should be, and it shouldn't. You should be able, government on the national level has become a constant gridlock. And I like to think of myself as a Bob Dole kind of guy. You get along because there's some things that, okay, maybe I don't want this right now, but I know that in the future I might want something that they don't want. And they're going to remember, okay, he went along with us on that, let's go along with this on this project.
A couple quick points, and we gotta wrap this
Okay.
up, because we have two gentlemen.
There we go.
It's funny, being a one-man band, I don't get to go to some of the places as much as others, like being in the New Smyrna area in Daytona.
Sure.
Been to Daytona frequently, the county council more than the other. Well, New Smyrna, I would say number one, because I live there.
Right.
I would say the two anti-gadfly, clearly citizen watchdogs that I can name off the top of my head. Number one, Bob Tolley at New Smyrna Beach, went right for the mayor's jugular.
Right.
And the other one would be Ted Nostel in Port Orange. We drove away half the former staff, but sometimes you need that kind of push. Do you find in Holly Hill that's lacking to some degree? That energy?
No, we've had that energy.
I'm not talking about antagonism. I'm talking about somebody wanting to affect change.
We've had those people. My opponent claimed that he wanted to do that, but he didn't understand the intricacies of government. There are things that, as an opponent, you can say a lot of things. If you are not sitting in the seat, if you haven't sat in the commission seat, if you haven't had to live by the sunshine law, you live and die.
No, I know.
And so you have to make sure that you're doing everything that you can. And there are things that my opponent would say that, well, why don't you do that?
We gotta wrap this
You
up.
can't.
One quick question.
Sure.
Just curious beyond belief.
All right.
Has Holly Hill ever had access to the beach itself? Seems like you're landlocked unfairly by a woman in Daytona. Am I imagining that?
One of the decisions that was made by an early city council, because we changed it to commission a few years back, because its commissioner is gender neutral, whereas councilman is not. So one of the decisions they made back in the 20s or 30s was that they wanted the city to raise $4,000 as their contribution to a Flomish Avenue bridge, and the city did not. Had the city put in that contribution and the bridge run in, we would have been able to annex over to the beach. That area, there's a small county area, if I'm not mistaken, there's still a small county area in between Daytona and Ormond. They may have already merged.
I'm sure they
I
have.
don't keep that up, but Holly Hill could have had beach access. And of course, I was a beach trust commissioner, even though Holly Hill doesn't have a beach, because the beach trust was defined, the beach side cities were defined as any city that was east of I-95. And I had a bigger vote than the people from Ponzilla because we had a bigger population. So it was always fun serving as a beach trust commissioner under those terms. So this has been one of the most interesting elections in my life. On a national level, on a local level, we've got a lot of people that are upset with government, although from those same people I haven't seen where they have tried to do something good about it. They're always doing a cut down and
Well, we're gonna have to.
such.
We're gonna have to end it there, but
Thank you.
I hope that we
Call
can
me
do this
anytime.
again. You know how to get in touch with me?
Yes.